In a volleyball classroom at an elementary school in South Korea, Coach Woo Jin stared at a corner of a trophy that had been broken by students, suddenly feeling the urge to give up. His performance in competitions back then was mediocre, and his only honor was this trophy for the best player in the youth category. After retiring, he switched careers to become a coach and opened a volleyball training class, but faced constant criticism. Since nothing was going smoothly, he thought it might be better to end it all and go home to enjoy a leisurely life. So after refunding the tuition, Woo Jin began to pack his bags. Meanwhile, the volleyball scene in South Korea was in turmoil. Top star Yoo Ra and another key player Jin Hee from the veteran Storm team transferred to the Black Queens team, causing the team to instantly lose 2 core members. In such a situation, which investor would be willing to take over this significantly weakened team? Outsiders speculated that the Storm team was on the verge of disbanding. Within the team, morale was low, and many players were worried about their future after the team disbanded. However, just as everyone was sinking into despair, team leader Ban received news that someone had invested in acquiring the Storm team, and this new owner specifically requested Woo Jin to be the head coach. After receiving the news, Woo Jin was filled with doubt. Reflecting on his coaching experience, he had always moved between different middle school teams without achieving any significant accomplishments, with an average win rate of less than 10%. Worse still, last year he coached a high school team that had reached the national top 4, only to be eliminated with a regional top 8 finish. As for his career as an athlete, it was even less noteworthy. He retired before even entering a professional team. His resume was filled with records of dismissal and removal, and his personal life ended in divorce. Yet why would such a seemingly unsuccessful person be appreciated by the new owner, Jong Won? It turned out that Jong Won's acquisition of this struggling team and hiring of this failed coach was not out of love for sports. He was a businessman, always thinking about how to make a profit. And an inspirational story of an underdog winning against the odds undoubtedly best satisfies the emotional consumption needs of the public. Therefore, Jong Won had only one requirement for Woo Jin: to win a match that everyone thought was unwinnable, to create buzz, attract attention, and thus earn huge profits. After hearing this plan, Woo Jin immediately wanted to leave. How could anyone spend a fortune to buy a team just to win a single match? Jong Won was simply unreasonable. But when Ban promised that as long as he coached for a year, he would recommend him to coach at Daejeon University, Woo Jin instantly felt invigorated. That was the coaching position at the university he had always dreamed of. As soon as the news of Woo Jin being appointed as the head coach of the Storm team was announced, it immediately caused a stir in the volleyball community. This is because the current head coach of the rising Black Queen team, Oh Sung, was Woo Jin's setter coach during his high school team days. Back then, Woo Jin led the team to the top 8 and tearfully begged him to stay. But Oh Sung ultimately left this team, which lacked championship hopes, for better development prospects. Soon after, team members retired one after another due to the lack of guidance. Now, everyone can't help but wonder what kind of sparks will fly between Woo Jin and Oh Sung, given their past mentor-student relationship in the professional league. That evening, Woo Jin arrived at the team's training ground and found it empty. Remembering that player Suji was currently enjoying herself at a nightclub, he helplessly shook his head. The atmosphere of this team is indeed too lax. What's more troublesome is that none of the remaining players have experience in the A-level league, and all key positions are vacant. In this case, it might be better to just get through this year with a half-hearted attitude. However, to Woo Jin's surprise, he encountered Ji-suk in the storage room. Woo Jin remembered that Ji-suk was once the best player in a youth tournament and had performed exceptionally well at that time. Unexpectedly, after entering the professional arena, she has sat on the bench for 6 years with the Storm team. On the other hand, Ban applied to Jong Won for funds to supplement the players and staff needed for the league. Jong Won refused to add any investment, and instead sold 2 outstanding libero players, who specialized in defense, for 500 million won. As for other vacant positions, his principle was to make the most of what he had, prioritizing the lowest costs. Thus, Ha Ni, who was suspended for accidentally burning down the training room, foreign players who couldn't communicate, and the rough and unruly Bo-ra were all brought into the team by Jung-won. Woo-jin's original tactical idea was to rely on the defensive advantages of these two liberos to achieve unexpected victories against weaker teams. Now, not only have players been sold, but the newcomers are also of mixed quality. What right does this team have to win? Woo-jin suddenly had a foreboding feeling. He felt as if he had jumped into a scorching predicament. His superiors' actions were hard to trust, and the players also seemed unable to stand on their own. Ban hurriedly reminded Woo-jin not to forget the opportunity with the university team, and revealed that he had heard that the vice president of Daejeon University loves fishing, and had arranged to go to the fishing grounds together this weekend. After hearing this, Woo-jin's spirits lifted, realizing that the university team from Daejeon University was indeed an important alternative, and he decided to give it his all this weekend. So, during the Storm team's training, Woo-jin focused on wiping the fishing gear nearby. Meanwhile, Jung-won continued to create topics for the team. He publicly promised that as long as the Storm team wins a match, he would draw 100 people from the audience who purchased tickets for the team's games to share 2 billion Korean won. This day was when the foreign player Yuki came to report. Woo-jin initially wanted to simply test her abilities, but as a libero, Yuki's nearly perfect defensive performance shocked him greatly. How could such an outstanding player end up on the Storm team? Yuki explained that she had been ostracized in her previous Japanese team, and Jung-won chose her simply because she looked cute in her photo. However, Yuki's joining caused dissatisfaction among the other players. The serve receive that the libero is responsible for is a key aspect that determines the quality and effectiveness of the team's offensive tactics. How could Jung-won assign a foreigner who doesn't speak the language to this position? At this moment, Ha-ni, who had been suspended for a year, collapsed in the middle of the hall, reeking of alcohol. The hot-tempered Bo-ra immediately led the other players to loudly reprimand Ha-ni, and a conflict was about to erupt. Seeing this situation, Woo-jin felt a headache. Is there really no normal player in this team? The new season is starting next week, and not only is no one voluntarily practicing more, but they are also gathering here to argue over trivial matters. They are truly a group of players who are hard to cultivate. Woo-jin often says he doesn't want to get involved, but he is also unwilling to see anyone repeat the mistakes he made in the past. So he spoke with a tone that inevitably became heavier due to his disappointment. The captain specifically sought out Woo-jin, requesting him to show more respect to everyone. The departure of core players had already led to a gloomy atmosphere within the team, and Jung-won's promise of 2 billion further pushed the entire team into a critical situation. Now that the match tickets were sold out, each player was under immense psychological pressure, fearing that they might end up without a single win and lose face. Woo-jin believed that respect must be earned through one's own strength, not through the charity of others. If one wants to gain the respect of others, one must first correct their attitude and fully commit to training. Amidst the noise, the Storm team welcomed the opening match of the season. Their opponent was the Supergirls team, which had ranked last for 10 consecutive years. The moment Woo-jin saw the opposing coach, he was certain of victory, because the opposing coach, Jung-suk, had once been his teammate in high school. Woo-jin knew Jung-suk's level all too well. What kind of strong team could someone who didn't even understand volleyball lead? However, reality dealt a heavy blow to Woo-jin. The restructured Storm team, due to insufficient practice time, had numerous coordination issues. Sometimes the middle blocker and setter would compete for the ball, and sometimes the libero and opposite hitter would miscommunicate and miss receptions. The players on the field did not understand the tactical signals passed by Woo-jin, and the captain repeatedly made mistakes due to physical discomfort. During the continuous loss of points, Bo-ra mistakenly thought the opponents were mocking her and swung her arm to retaliate. Woo-jin, fearing a full-blown brawl, hurriedly called for a stop and gathered the players around. However, having been away from the court for too long, when the camera approached, his mind went blank, completely forgetting the tactics he needed to lay out, and in the end, he could only hastily say, "Let's go," before sending the players back to the court. As a result, there was no suspense. The Storm team suffered a crushing defeat, being shut out 3-0 by the Supergirls team. But this was just the beginning of a losing streak, as the Storm team was consecutively defeated 3-0 by multiple teams. However, through these matches, Woojin noticed an unusual atmosphere within the team. Min-hee, who played as a receiver, seemed to be isolated, as no one passed the ball to her, even if it might lead to a loss. During scoring celebrations, the players deliberately excluded her. After yet another defeat, the dissatisfaction of the Storm team fans towards Woojin reached its peak. Protests against his continued position appeared outside the arena, with even extreme fans publicly burning his portrait. It should be noted that the Storm team had won all championship titles in 1997. Why had it fallen to such a state under Woojin's leadership? Faced with the increasingly rising doubts, Woojin found it hard to express his feelings. If it weren't for his position with the university team, he would have wanted to resign immediately. A team that resembled a farcical group, lacking cohesion, would be difficult for anyone to manage. What was even more disappointing was that after losing, they were unwilling to review their training, and instead all went to a fried chicken restaurant to indulge. Woojin saw no fighting spirit in them. At that moment in the fried chicken restaurant, everyone was blaming Min-hee behind her back. It turned out that along with Yura's transfer, Min-hee's older sister Jin-hee had also left. In the eyes of the players, the current predicament of the team and all its misfortunes were caused by the departure of Jin-hee and Yura. Thus, they vented all their grievances on Min-hee. Facing misunderstanding and accusations, Min-hee chose to silently endure, but she still wanted to prove herself with her abilities. So while everyone else went out to have fun, she stayed behind at the base to train alone. Woojin did not expect that there would be such an ambitious player in this team. He remembered that Min-hee was agile in high school, scoring countless points with her spikes on the court. Why did she switch to playing as a receiver after entering the professional league? Was it to give the spotlight to Yura? Soon, the match against the Black Queens team arrived. Facing his former coach Oh-sung, Woojin felt resentment in his heart, but due to the team's poor performance, he had no face to look at him directly. Pre-match commentary even joked that the only highlight of the match would be how quickly the Storm team would lose. The progress of the match went as the commentary predicted, almost becoming Yura's personal performance. Her powerful spikes left the Storm team in disarray. Worse still, Woojin and the players still had no chemistry. The players couldn't understand his commands, and he didn't know how to effectively communicate tactics. The outcome was yet another crushing defeat. As soon as they left the gym, the long-waiting fans used a loudspeaker to insult the players. The hot-tempered players were about to retaliate, but Woojin quickly stepped in to advise everyone to return to the bus first. Faced with consecutive defeats, Woojin felt equally disheartened. Especially today, he lost to the coach who had once abandoned him. Did Woojin not want to win just once? He wanted to prove to Oh-sung that he had misjudged him back then, and that he was far from worthless. Therefore, Woojin had been thinking about how to adjust the lineup to maximize everyone's potential. But the players continued to lose and faced constant criticism, falling into a vicious cycle, and their fighting spirit had been worn down. However, they were participating in the top league for the first time and needed time to adapt to the changes. So Woojin pleaded with the fans to stop insulting the players and to offer more understanding and encouragement. Perhaps everything would gradually improve. After receiving the fans' consent, Woojin secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Turning around, he found his daughter, Jinya, had come. Thinking of the recent negative comments online, he feared being looked down upon by his daughter and hurriedly explained that he would be coaching the stronger Daejeon University team next year. Unexpectedly, Jinya retorted, "How is what you're doing different from Oh-sung back then?" Her words pierced Woojin's heart like a sharp thorn, stinging yet instantly awakening him. Woojin realized that if he continued to hold this mindset, how was it any different from the Oh-sung who had hurt him back then? He realized he could no longer wait. Change had to start immediately, and that victory was also essential. Thus, Woojin changed his previously lax demeanor and immediately called the entire team for a night training session upon returning. He told the players that the root of their failure lay in everyone never being in the right position. With years of coaching experience, Woojin was clear about each person's technical characteristics. Ignoring the objections of others, he insisted that Ji-suk, who hadn't played for 6 years, take on the role of primary setter, because she had top-notch reaction speed and physical fitness, capable of accurately capturing offensive opportunities. Although Ji-suk's 6 years of experience as a substitute had honed her observational skills, which might become her timid flaw, Woojin believed that strengths and weaknesses were like two sides of a coin, both indispensable. Ji-suk's meticulous observation could help her judge when to pass the ball to which teammate. The original primary setter, Suji, switched to middle blocking, while the main attacker, Boda, who was weak in defense but good at breakthroughs, was reassigned to a more aggressive role as a secondary attacker. It turns out that Woojin's judgment was correct. After adjustments, the team quickly got back on track. Accurate sets, successful blocks, and sharp spikes helped the players regain their confidence. Although still struggling to win, they no longer lost so miserably. In fact, in their most recent match, they secured a set victory. On the return bus, everyone cheered, but Min-hee in the corner remained silent. She had never been able to play. During targeted training, Woojin asked setter Ji-suk to pause slightly before making a pass. But this would make it difficult for the attackers to time their spikes. Woojin knew there was one person in the team who could do it: Min-hee, who had left a deep impression on him during high school league days and had played as a main attacker. Yura's advantage lies in height and strength, while Min-hee's strengths are speed and flexibility. As long as they understand using softness to overcome hardness, avoiding the solid and striking the weak, Woojin believes that the combination of Ji-suk and Min-hee can definitely enhance the Storm team's strength. Perhaps due to 6 years of neglect, Ji-suk didn't care about the rumors regarding Min-hee within the team, and the two had developed a tacit understanding and private cooperation. However, when the other team members heard that Min-hee would replace the main attacker, they collectively expressed their opposition before the match. In their eyes, Min-hee was a traitor. How could she be allowed to play? As a result, during the match, except for Ji-suk, who organized the attacks seriously, the other four were completely unwilling to cooperate with Min-hee, either deliberately not blocking or avoiding discussing tactics with her. Even when scoring from Min-hee's serves, the four intentionally sidelined her during celebrations. Under immense pressure, Min-hee eventually reached the brink of collapse, making frequent mistakes. In the end, amidst the boos of dissatisfied teammates, the Storm team was once again shut out. Woojin was both anxious and angry. After the players gathered, he sternly reprimanded them for lacking a sense of cooperation and team spirit, only acting on impulse. What right do such people have to think they should win? What right do they have to challenge Yura? The coach's scolding and the dismal score suddenly made everyone realize the blocker Suji was already in her 40s. How much longer could she fight on the court? How many years were left in their own careers? Immediately after, Min-hee's painful crying and self-blame made everyone feel uneasy. When everyone was giving their all for victory, how could they ruin the team's efforts because of personal grudges? The regular season used a 5-round round-robin system, with home and away games evenly distributed, and each pair of teams had to face off 10 times. At this point, the regular season had progressed to the 4th round, and due to poor early performance, even if the Storm team won all subsequent matches, they would still miss the playoffs. But Woojin still decided to face the remaining matches with the most serious attitude. After all, the Storm team had yet to achieve their first victory. Woojin is confident that he can defeat the other two teams that also missed the playoffs. Therefore, his goal is to win the first 2 matches. After discussion, everyone unanimously agreed that the second-ranked Smash team is easier to deal with. However, to win, the Storm team needs support from a professional tactical analysis team. Jungwon remains stingy, focusing only on live ticket sales and unwilling to allocate any funds to Woojin. In desperation, Woojin has to self-learn analysis techniques. He approached the coach of the Pink Girls team, Jung-suk, to ask for guidance on using professional analysis software. This software can import match videos and analyze player offensive routes, possession rates, and other data through slow motion, which is far more precise than visual observation. Woo Jin seems to have opened the door to a new world, studying the software day and night. This software gives the Storm team a significant advantage. Analysis shows that the Smash team's midfield defense has vulnerabilities. During the match, the main attacker Min-hee, using agile footwork, combines feints with midfield smashes, causing the Smash team to lose points repeatedly. However, other team members perform inconsistently, keeping the score tight. When the Smash team only needed one more point to end the match, Suji successfully scored a point, giving the Storm team another chance. At this moment, the Smash team's coach, Sejin, raised an objection, claiming that Suji touched the net and requested a video replay decision. The replay confirmed that Suji's wrist did indeed touch the net. As a result, the Storm team ultimately lost 2-3. As the regular season enters the 5th round, the Storm team still has not won a single match. But the performance in the last match greatly encouraged the entire team. As long as they unite, they are just one step away from victory, even against the second-ranked Smash team. Next, the Storm team will face the bottom-ranked 5-star team. Woo Jin analyzed through the software and found that when the opposing main attacker opens their mouth, there is a 78% chance of a straight attack. As long as Honey observes well, they can prevent it in advance. After formulating tactics, the Storm team began targeted training. However, during the match, the 5-star team is unwilling to become a stepping stone for the Storm team's rise, and the Storm team is also unwilling to lose the victory that is within reach. In the final crucial points, both sides engaged in a thrilling tug-of-war. But when the last ball from the 5-star team came, Woo Jin made a serious misjudgment, believing the ball was out of bounds and signaling libero Yuki not to receive it. The result left Woo Jin stunned. The volleyball landed in bounds, and the Storm team lost again. As the regular season approaches its end, the Storm team has only one last match left, which is also their final chance to win. But their last opponent is the undefeated Black Queens team since the start of the season. No one believes the Storm team can create a miracle and turn the tables to win. Even Woo Jin, who has always boosted morale, is now having second thoughts. Watching Oh Sung being interviewed on TV, memories of being abandoned by him kept flooding back, and a sense of helplessness washed over. Is it really impossible to win even one match? At that moment, the lights in the gymnasium turned on behind him. It turned out that setter Ji-suk was still practicing late at night. In Ji-suk's heart, Woo Jin is the best coach, because he can always find everyone's strengths and motivate everyone to never give up. Ji-suk hopes Woo Jin can continue coaching and together defeat the Black Queens team. The reason she has endured 6 years as a substitute is her love for volleyball and her firm belief in victory. Looking at the spark in Ji-suk's eyes, Woo Jin reignited his confidence and resolutely walked towards Jungwon's office. Facing Jungwon, Woo Jin candidly admitted that his past was bleak and the future might continue to be filled with failure. But this time, he must win a match. Because it is not just a number on the scoreboard, but the first true victory in his life. However, if the Black Queens team continues to send out substitutes, everything will lose its meaning. Woo Jin knows Oh Sung has a strong sense of pride, so he asked Jungwon to hold a live broadcast to provoke Oh Sung into sending out his strongest lineup, making this match a true showdown, giving himself and the Storm team a chance to seize an opportunity without regrets. Woo Jin also vowed in the live broadcast, if he loses to the Black Queens team, he will resign as coach and permanently withdraw from the volleyball world. This vow angered Oh Sung, who declared he would send his main players to teach the unaware Woo Jin a lesson. At the same time, the morale of the entire Storm team soared. Since the coach had made a firm decision, why should they have any more concerns? After a period of targeted preparation, the day of the decisive battle finally arrived. Before the match, Woo Jin did not give an impassioned speech, but sincerely thanked everyone. It was every member of the Storm team, their own changes and unyielding resilience, that reignited his desire for victory, a desire that had once been dulled. Woojin believes that regardless of the outcome, after today, he is about to welcome a brand new life. Previous analysis indicated that as long as the setter was 0.3 seconds faster than Yura, they could defend against her attacks. Therefore, in the first set, the players voluntarily gave up points, deliberately exhausting Yura's stamina in hopes of limiting her offensive power in the following sets. At the same time, Woojin discovered that when Yura was 30 centimeters from the sideline with her left foot, she would always hit a long ball. Otherwise, she would hit a diagonal short ball. This distance control and attention to detail were Ji-suk's strengths. Thus, in the second set, under Ji-suk's guidance, the Storm team successfully defended and counterattacked multiple times, scoring consecutively. Ha-ni made her first display of a floating serve, catching her opponent off guard. As a result, the undefeated Black Queen team this season surprisingly lost a set to this underestimated weak team. Oh-sung replaced the key setter under the circumstances where both offense and defense were fully exposed. In the third set, Woojin called a timeout after confirming that the opponent's new setter served higher, advising the players to delay their jump for blocking by a second. The strategic adjustment had an immediate effect, and the Storm team turned the disadvantage around and surged forward. Under the coach's battle of wits, the third set reached match point. At this moment, Ha-ni, serving, smiled upon seeing the opponent's defensive formation. Thinking she would serve a floating ball, she executed a precise and sharp spike, leading the Storm team to another point. After losing 2 sets, Oh-sung had to brace himself and sent out the ultimate weapon, the league's top server, Ji-na. In the fourth set, although the Storm team tried various tactics, they continued to lose points under Ji-na's powerful serves. However, Woojin remained calm. He called a timeout and introduced his team's secret weapon, the league's second-best server, Jung-ah. Jung-ah had previously been sidelined due to injury, but fortunately recovered just in time before the last match. However, Woojin noticed that she had a habit of spinning the ball when serving, which weakened the power of her serve, though her wrist movement technique was excellent. So before the match, Woojin focused on training Jung-ah to change her serving trajectory, requiring her to throw it high directly. After correcting her flaws, Jung-ah became nearly unstoppable, scoring continuously for the Storm team after entering the game. The score reached 24-23. The Storm team only needed one more point to secure their first victory, defeating the top-ranked strong team. Thus, this point was fiercely contested. Before the match, Oh-sung instructed his setter Ji-suk to definitely pass to the back of point B, and Woojin indeed directed Ji-suk to attack the back of B. But at a critical moment, Woojin sensed a change in the situation and immediately signaled with the secret code taught by Oh-sung, prompting Ji-suk and Min-hee to suddenly switch from backcourt to midcourt attack. It was this quick adaptation that secured the hard-earned victory for the Storm team. As the final whistle blew, the entire arena erupted. No one expected that a mayfly could truly shake a tree. Nor did anyone know how much sweat the Storm team had poured into this victory, how many days and nights of hard practice they had endured, and how many failures they had suffered. But at this moment, all the efforts finally paid off, and they wrote their own legendary comeback with their actions. Woojin could finally straighten his back and stand before Oh-sung, humbly saying, "Thank you for your hard work." From then on, he dedicated himself to discovering those buried volleyball talents. For example, the newly joined Kim Yeon-kung, Woojin firmly believed she would eventually win a world championship. Looking back on his tumultuous career, Woojin finally realized, life has its lows and its highs. Those who have long resided at the peak often view the lows as an abyss. But once you truly step into it, you will find it is not as terrifying as it seems. There are streams and valleys. As long as you keep moving forward, you will eventually climb to the peak again.